Jesus was, without a doubt, one of the most powerful teachers in history. And for a while, his teaching was incredibly direct. But then, all of a sudden, something changed. He started telling these strange, sometimes confusing stories we call parables. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into the Enduring Word commentary to figure out why he made this pivot and what these mysterious stories are all about. All right, let's get into it.
So this is the central mystery, right? Why would a teacher who was so clear suddenly start communicating in what feels like code? Well, it turns out this wasn't an accident. It was a very deliberate, very sharp strategy that tells us a ton about his message and about his audience.
To really get the strategy, first we have to understand the tool itself. What even is a parable, and what was it actually designed to do?
The original Greek word parabole literally means to throw alongside of. The best way to picture it is like this. You take a deep, cosmic, heavenly truth, and you throw a simple, everyday, earthly story right next to it. The story is there to shine a light on one specific point of the truth. It's not some complex allegory where every single character is a secret symbol. Nope, they're super focused illustrations.
And here's where it gets really clever. These stories were designed with a dual purpose. On the one hand, if you had an open heart, if you were willing to listen, the parables were like a window, opening up the truth in a way you'd never forget. But if you were prejudiced, if you'd already made up your mind about Jesus, those same stories acted like a veil, hiding the truth from you.
This quote from the commentary just nails the concept. Think about it. The sun, the message, is exactly the same. But depending on what it shines on, it has a totally opposite effect. It'll soften wax, but it'll harden clay. The message of the parable worked the same way on people's hearts. It either opened you up or it hardened you even more.
Okay, so if the impact of the message really depends on the listener, then how are we supposed to understand all the different ways people hear? Well, Jesus tells a parable about that exact thing. It's often called the key that unlocks all the other parables, the parable of the sower.
So Jesus paints this picture of a farmer just scattering seed, and it lands on 4 different kinds of ground. First up is the wayside. This is like a hard, packed-down footpath. The seed just sits on the surface, it can't get in, and a bird immediately snatches it. Then you have the stony places. Here, there's a little bit of soil, but it's super thin, right on top of a rock. The seed sprouts up fast, looks great, lots of initial excitement, but it has no roots, so the second the sun gets hot, it's toast. The third soil is among thorns. This ground is actually good and fertile, but it's already full of weeds. The anxieties of life, the desire for more stuff, and they just grow up and choke the new plant to death. And finally, you get the good ground. This is fertile, tilled soil. The seed goes in deep, takes root, and produces an amazing crop.
Now here is the most crucial part of this whole story. The sower is the same in every scenario. The seed is the same. The only thing that changes is the condition of the soil. What this does is put all the responsibility for how the message is received squarely on the listener. It's all about the ground.
And, of course, that flips the whole thing right back on us. It makes you stop and ask a pretty tough question. When I hear something new, something challenging, what kind of soil is my heart? Is it hard? Is it shallow? Is it too crowded and distracted? Or is it ready to receive something and let it grow?
But Jesus doesn't just stop with how we listen. He then launches into a few more parables that give a much more complex and, honestly, a much more surprising picture of what his kingdom community would actually look like out in the real world.
He tells this story about a farmer who sows good wheat. But then, in the middle of the night, an enemy sneaks in and sows tares. Now, tares were a specific poisonous weed called darnel that looked almost exactly like wheat when they were both young. So the wheat represents the true sons of the kingdom, but the tares are these counterfeits, the sons of the wicked one, planted right there among them.
So the workers see this and they say, hey, should we go pull out all the weeds? And the farmer gives this really shocking command. He says, no, let them grow together. He knows that trying to rip out the look-alike weeds right now would end up damaging the good wheat. The big separation, he says, that's a job for the final harvest, not for now. Which suggests this community is going to have both the real deal and the fakes all mixed in until the very end.
And if you think that's a challenging idea, just wait. According to the commentary, this theme of corruption showing up inside the kingdom gets even more intense in the next 2 parables, and these are 2 that are very often misunderstood.
So let's look at the mustard seed. We usually hear this as a simple big things from small beginnings story,
And yeah, the kingdom starts small, but in the parable it grows into an unnaturally large tree. See, a mustard plant is a shrub, a bush. It doesn't become a massive tree. And what does this weird, overgrown structure attract? The birds of the air. Wait a minute, haven't we heard about them before? Yes, in the parable of the sower, they were the agents of the evil one who snatched the seed away. So this isn't a picture of healthy growth, it's a warning about institutional corruption. A system so big, it ends up giving cover to evil.
The commentary even quotes one person who calls this unnatural growth a monster in the garden. It's this powerful warning against the church or any movement becoming a worldly empire that's valued for its size and its power instead of its purity.
The next parable is just as wild. A woman takes some leaven, which is yeast, and hides it in 3 measures of meal. Now, 3 measures of meal is an enormous amount. It's about 40 liters worth. That's enough dough to make bread for over 100 people. This isn't just a woman baking for her family. This is an industrial-sized operation. So to understand this interpretation, you have to know that almost every other time leaven or yeast shows up in the Bible, it's a symbol for sin and corruption. And notice, the woman doesn't just add the leaven, the text says she hides it in the dough, and it spreads until the whole massive batch is affected. The commentary suggests this isn't a picture of good influence spreading, it's a picture of hidden, corrupting influences secretly working their way through the entire community of faith.
Whew, okay. So after those pretty sobering warnings about corruption and weeds, Jesus completely pivots. He tells 2 super short parables that show, in spite of all these problems, what he values most.
He tells the story about a guy who's just out in a field and stumbles upon a hidden treasure. And pay attention to the emotion here. It's not duty, it's not obligation, it's for pure joy that he goes and sells absolutely everything he owns just so he can buy that field and get that treasure.
Now here is the beautiful twist from the commentary. We usually think we're the man who finds the treasure of the kingdom, but that's not it. We have nothing to offer. Jesus is the man. The field is the whole world, and he gave everything, his very life, to purchase the whole world, not for the sake of the field itself, but to gain the treasure that was hidden inside it, his people. And then, boom, right away he tells another story. A merchant finds one single pearl that's so valuable, so perfect, he sells off his entire inventory just to have that one pearl. It's the same exact point, just hammered home. The incredible, supreme, sell-everything value that Jesus places on his people. So the chapter doesn't just end on these abstract stories. It brings it all home with a real-life event that works as a perfect case study for the very first parable we looked at, the sower and the soils.
Jesus goes back to his hometown, Nazareth. But the people there, the ones who watched him grow up, they couldn't get past it. They were actually offended. You can almost hear them talking. Wait a second, isn't this the carpenter's son? Where does he get off teaching us? Their hearts were a perfect picture of that wayside soil, packed down hard by familiarity and pride.
And in response, Jesus says this famous line, basically pointing out that the people who should have honored him most didn't. And the result is staggering. The Bible says he didn't do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Their hard soil literally limited what could happen. It was a real-world demonstration of why the parables were so necessary, to filter out those who couldn't hear from those who could. And that brings us right back to the beginning. These parables, they're not just ancient stories, they're a mirror. They're designed to reveal truth to anyone who's willing to really look and to hide it from those who aren't. And they force every single one of us to ask a deeply personal question. The next time you come across a profound or challenging or maybe even an uncomfortable truth, what kind of soil will it find in you?